It is painful when you realize that you have never been loved. Never being loved is like missing something that is key to being human. And you might argue that there has been people in your life that would say that they have loved you or they love you, but you've never felt loved by them. And you might think that that is a deficiency in yourself, that you are incapable of receiving love from others. Because if they have told you that they love you, but you didn't feel it, well then it must mean that there's something wrong with you, right? That you can't receive that love or you can't feel that love. But the thing is that you're able to love yourself, so you can already strike out that argument. That is not an argument, because you know how it feels to be loved, but you know that you have never felt it from other people. You might have felt it in the company of animals or nature or maybe children. That pure, authentic, clean innocence. You might have felt it, or you might feel that love inside yourself. You might feel that you are able to love yourself for who you are, but that love that you feel with yourself is exclusive to only you. That no one else is able to love you in the same way that you love yourself. And that makes it feel like you're not loved. That makes you feel unloved. And I want to be very clear about this, because I see so many content creators talk about how, you are loved, you are loved, you are loved. And almost minimizing the fact that there is a big part of you that feels so unloved. And by constantly trying to push love inside of a place that feels loveless, that is not love. That is not love. That is not care. But recognizing that you feel loveless, recognizing that you don't feel loved, that is a huge step. Just having that acknowledgement to yourself, just having that awareness, and being brave enough with yourself and vulnerable enough in yourself to be able to admit that to yourself. I feel loveless. I don't feel loved. I don't feel I've ever been loved. And sitting with that realization, acknowledging that is your reality. It does not matter how many people or who has told you that they love you, because you have not felt it. And that is such a heartbreaking thing to realize. And it's so easy to think that it's because you have too many demands, or you love in a way that is too specific that other people can't give you that same love. So easy to come up with all these arguments or all these reasons as to why you're not loved. But for now, I just want to acknowledge that. For now, I just want to say it out loud. That is a heartbreaking thing, and that is a horrible thing to feel. That is a painful thing to feel, to never have been loved. Not excusing it with, well, but I've loved myself, or, well, maybe these people loved me, but I just didn't feel it. No, you never felt loved. You never felt loved. And when you see that child you were, that was left in that state of lovelessness, you see that young adult, you see that adult, you see that teenager, you see yourself as a grown person, you see yourself as an old person, you see yourself go through an entire life and never feeling loved. That is the essence of this lovelessness. It feels unending. It feels like it's never gonna stop. It feels like this is just your foundation. That is just how you exist in lovelessness. And the same goes when you have a feeling of chronic loneliness. It feels like a loneliness that never goes away. It might quiet down sometimes, but it's always there. A feeling of complete disconnection from other people, from humanity, You feel like an alien on the earth. You feel like you're not really human because you don't love in the way that others love. And that makes you feel so alone, isolated from other people. Because it's not just about feeling lonely, as in feeling not connected, but it's also a feeling of being alone and feeling lonely about that, because you don't have that ability to really connect with people, not physically or not emotionally. So there's always this barrier, because you speak different languages. You speak different love languages. It's almost like you speak a language of love that you don't recognize anywhere else. And I don't want to explain it. I don't want to understand it. I don't want to argue with it. I just want to acknowledge it. And acknowledge how painful it is to go through life in that state of being. And how much compassion and acknowledgement and care and love that part of you deserves. That part of you that feels loveless deserves so much love. And you might be the only one able to give that to yourself. And while that can be comforting to know that you always have yourself, it is also extremely devastating to know that you only have yourself. That no one might be able to ever love you in the way that you feel you deserve. And that it feels hopeless and dangerous to believe that that could ever happen, that someone could ever love you. You might have been able to be loved for the things you do, or for how you look, or for what you have, but you've never been loved for who you are. You've never been cared for how you deserve. You've never been met with the same empathy that you give yourself or that you give other people. And so it feels like you're constantly empty. And even when you don't do anything to empty yourself, even if you don't overextend yourself, even if you don't give other people's anything, you still feel that you're constantly deficient, lacking love. And maybe there's not anything to be done with this. Maybe it's just a realization that there are parts of being human that is so excruciatingly painful that you can't even really explain it or understand it or argue against it. It just is. And the only thing we can really do is just accept that this is how we feel, that this is the reality, even if we don't know whether or not this will always be the reality or not. But right now, that is how it feels like. Right now, that is our entire reality. Feeling loveless and feeling like you've never been loved. It feels like a big empty space that is just growing emptier and emptier. And you're constantly walking on a fine line between hope that you will one day get to feel loved by other people and feeling like you're being swallowed up by this emptiness, while at the same time you're blaming yourself as though you have been the cause for that lovelessness, as though you asked for it. But you didn't. And you never deserved to feel like this. You always deserve to be loved for who you are.